Welcome, sentient beings from all known universes and beyond. It's time to activate your cranial downlinks and prepare to receive a raft of discussion on a cosmic ocean of science fiction and fantasy topics, interviews with local area genre devotees, and insightful prognostication by our soothsayers of science fiction, our forecasters of fantasy, and any other beings that happen to get caught in our gravity well. This is the Galactic Driftwood Podcast.
Hello, and welcome to another edition of the Galactic Driftwood Podcast. I'm Bill.
I'm Linda.
I'm Charles.
I'm Seth.
I'm Jenna.
And I'm Chris.
And today we're going to be talking about the new, I guess it's kind of a horror sci-fi series on Netflix called 1899.
You said it right,
and,
Bill. Good job.
Yes, I know.
Wow.
And so for the rest of the show, if by chance I say 1889, I really mean 1899. It's just, I'm decade deficient today. So
I had the same problem.
So did I. It's they should have called it 1889 because it's just
yes.
Yeah, put it 10 years sooner and make it easier on me.
Right.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Right. So I think we'll jump to Jenna to kind of lead us into the discussion here and kind of give us some history or some background on the story, kind of give us an idea what it's about. And fair warning, there will be spoilers probably throughout.
Yar, there be spoilers abroad.
maybe a little swearing. We'll get into it.
Okay, so thanks for nominating me, Bill, as I'm still letting the caffeine kick in. But the best way to put it, to try and keep it short and sweet, we start with this period piece where there are a bunch of immigrants on this steamship headed to America from Europe. And our main heroine is Maura Franklin, the redhead. For those who are looking at the picture, she's from England, and she is trying to figure out what happened to her brother, because she says she got a letter from her brother that stated, hey, I know what our father did to the Prometheus, which we keep seeing and we keep hearing. The Prometheus was another ship that was lost 4 months ago, had over 1,000 people on it.
Company, right?
What? Same
It's
company.
the company's sister ship.
Yep, the company's sister ship that was lost 4 months ago. And everyone aboard is presumed dead. So she is trying to find her brother, hopefully in America, to see what he found out about their father. And during this time, we keep getting flashes from her of maybe her having been in an asylum. Just very disoriented images that may indicate that she may be crazy, maybe not, maybe she's a victim of something. So as we go along, the captain comes down at dinner, because we're starting to get these, we see a couple supposedly brothers from Spain. We see a Japanese woman, supposedly Japanese woman, because we start to get identity changes as we learn about the characters, talking to her mother. And then we have a Danish family, obviously religious, kind of got the mind of maybe an Amish type family, but whatever they're called, from Denmark. And then there's German crew members and English crew members and, just everywhere. It was great. So the captain comes down and tells everyone, hey, we got a signal from our sister ship because we use a certain type of communication that not other ships have. And it's only
extra long range. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. We're going to be the only ones who hear
technology.
it. We need to investigate. And as they go and they find the ship, the captain, Maura, because Maura is a doctor, he wants to take her and one of the Spanish guys who is impersonating a priest, because just in case, if there's dead souls or people on there, they may want to see a priest, which would be very comforting. And another crew member go aboard the ship. It's disrepair. There's no bodies. There's nothing. Very creepy. And then they end up hearing a pounding on a cabinet in the same dining hall that we had seen in a previous scene. And when they open it up, there's a little boy inside. Like someone had locked a little boy inside this cabinet. Creepy, mute, not talking little boy. So they take him back aboard the ship because they're like, what happened. We don't know. He's holding a little pyramid. And then so when they make it back to
Holding
ship,
a little pyramid? Sorry
Huh?
to interrupt, but could they have made the boy creepier?
Right.
Yes, because he gets creepier.
yes, he does get creepy.
I'm sorry. Quick poll for the podcast right here. But you find that kid that we see right there on the screen abandoned on an empty ship in the middle of the ocean holding a pyramid.
Yeah.
Do you bring him back with you, or do you just go?
But it's a child.
If you look really close, he has cat eyes.
Yeah, that's what I was seeing.
Well, it's technically not even cat eyes. It's like an upside down symbol of the pyramid.
Yeah.
Oh, God. Yeah, you're
With
right.
a lot of
Eyes.
That's actually
Yeah.
worse.
So, but here's
We'll
the
let
thing,
Jen,
like,
we'll let Jenna finish up the
so
synopsis here.
the key is like, as these people are on the ship, we see some mysterious stranger climb up where they can like release a buoy. Sorry, what is it? The little
The conning tower.
rowboats. The rowboats
Yeah.
that they had gone
Yeah.
to the Prometheus on. He had some
dinghy.
stranger who is assuming came from the Prometheus has gotten onto the ship and found an empty room, and he holds a little device that seems to tell him things that looks way more futuristic.
Yeah, it looks like a
So-
beetle.
Yes,
I think
and
in my mind, I'm envisioning the thing Seth brought to the party last night.
I don't want to know.
We'll
I don't
jump
know.
to that later. I do have
Yes.
questions
So-
about that.
Yeah, so they bring this kid back aboard their ship. Their ship is called the Kerberos, which instantly I was like sus, because Kerberos sounds too close to the name of Cerberus, which was the guard dog of Hades and
Right,
hell in Greek
three-headed.
mythology.
Three-headed guard dog. Yeah.
Yeah, so they bring him back aboard. This guy's on board, and the next thing they know, when they try and tell the company, hey, we found the ship, they're getting told the crew to sink the ship. So we can get into more of the details of how the rest of the show lays out, but basically we're set up with all of these interesting variables and characters that all of these immigrants and characters that we're getting introduced to in their own ways, including the captain, seem to have something they're running from or a bad past. Like the captain, his wife set all three of their daughters on fire in their house.
Oh my God.
As you would, as you do.
I mean, puberty's a bitch. So, and the two brothers, it starts to become quite obvious that they're not brothers, they're gay lovers fleeing, and that they did something horrible. So, and the mother and the Japanese, who is, well, we find out it's her mother, but she's supposed to be a Japanese servant serving this geisha, but she's not really a geisha. She's Chinese, and we find out that she was basically sold to another person on the ship to work her brothel. So it's very interesting, and probably what the key part in all of this is you're not sure who to trust. You don't know if they're crazy. You don't know if they're the ship. And if you watch this show, you have to watch an English original, because it defaults on Netflix to English dubbed, which dubs over like those who speak like English, who hear the English, but they dub everyone else who speaks foreign languages. And this TV show did a very impressive thing where actually, if you watch it in English original, you hear English, then you hear German, you hear Danish. They probably have at least 6 different languages in the show that they subtitle. So you are actually in a very real situation where if you have a group of immigrants from all of these different places and they're in a crisis, how would they try to communicate? How could
Right.
The
they?
native language, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Which is really fascinating.
And to that point, I would say that's what stopped me from watching the series.
Yeah, I think me
Not
too.
because of the different languages, but because I was watching it just in English.
The
Right?
default, yeah.
Yeah, the default in English. So I was watching it and I'd see, the characters talking in English and their lips were matching. And then it would go to another scene and they were talking English, but the lips didn't match. And then it would go to another scene and the lips matched again. And then it would go to another scene and the lips didn't. And I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, what kind of a chintzy ass production is this that they couldn't get the lip sync right from scene to scene? I'm like, I know it's not my TV because my TV doesn't go in sync and out of sync like that. Right?
Did you change it though? Did you change
No,
it?
I haven't gone back to change it. I got your
You
message
need
about
to,
it, but I
yeah.
haven't gone back to watch it. But we got probably halfway through it, and I told Linda, I'm like, I'm done. I've lost any faith
Yeah.
that this is a quality production. I cannot watch it anymore.
You like freaked
And
out.
so I get off. But
So-
now that you mention watching it in original English,
Yeah.
where it'll be subtitled when they're speaking foreign languages, that would be preferable.
So I'm clearly the monster here because I watched the whole damn thing in English dub.
You didn't change it after I told you?
No, because I'd already watched like 70%
No.
of it that way.
It didn't
So,
matter.
Well, here's the thing, Jenna. If it helps, I went back and watched one of the episodes in the English original,
Mhm.
and saw what you're talking about in terms of the diversity of the languages and everything like that. That is the better version. For me though, I had already watched so much of it, and I've watched enough dub stuff that it never really bothered me. But I get it. And I knew they were speaking different languages. I just had been used to it. So I just finished it that way because that was my experience. I am happy to go back and watch it in English original from the beginning. It's just I had already watched it that way. So for me, as I was trying to follow the plot and everything was going on, if I had switched it after going like 70-80% of the way through, that would have been more disruptive for me as opposed to just getting through the rest of it. But I mean, to your point, I mean, yeah, it should have defaulted to English original. And whoever made that decision, I think, destroyed a little bit of some of the plot and the story there and what was really going on with the ship, how they were communicating with each other, as you said. I do think that was a fuck up on Netflix's part. They should have never done that.
Yeah.
Like a perfect example, because we finally watched the last episode like it should have been, and we were like, God damn it, we should have watched the whole thing like this.
Yeah.
There's the Chinese girl, two women who are from England, and then two people who speak French. And the woman in Mora is trying to tell them what's going on, and the other woman from England is the one who bought the Chinese girl, so she's English but she can speak Chinese, so she's having to tell the other girl, and the Chinese girl's like, nope, I'm out. I'm not following you anymore because you knew obviously something was going on with the ship, so we are not. I'm not trusting you. And then you see the French guy, because obviously the black guy, he can only speak French. So he turned to the other French girl that he is standing there, is like, what are they saying? So like obviously there are people who are bilingual who can help, and then there are people who are not, and it's just so interesting. I've never seen it in a movie, that complexity. Maybe like English and another language, trying to communicate or work out a situation, but never. Yeah.
Yeah, that would have been a tough thing to film, I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the people who filmed this originally are the people who made Dark, which if you ever get the chance, that's pretty fascinating. Aaron watched it and I caught some of it, but basically it's a time sci-fi TV show from Germany.
Yep.
So even the directors themselves, they speak English, they speak German. They're used to very complicated storylines, which was very interesting. But when you watch the making of 1899, which is an option for this show after you get to the end, they talk about how they were trying to direct people, but like they don't speak Chinese. So when they would watch the Chinese mother and daughter talk, like have dialogue, he would double check. Okay, is that a sarcastic way of saying it? How would you say just eat it?
Oh yeah.
Or did you say just eat it in a dismissive way? So they would have to check tone, and then they would have staff who understood English or German and that other language who would also help check as they were speaking those things.
That'd be fun to watch the making of. We'll have to definitely do that.
What's great about the making it too is that they talk about the technology they use to do this film, which is the volume. They use this thing called the volume, which is ginormous LED screens instead of a green screen.
For the Mandalorian or the new Star Trek series. Yeah, and there was I think there was an article about that where it talked about those spaces becoming more and more predominant in the filming of major series and movies, and wondering if that might be the death of practical effects, because now everything can be done digitally. And it's really cool. I would think that as an actor, it would be cool to be in that space, and it would certainly inform and assist you in your acting because you're surrounded in this environment. But I also think it would be a little bit disconcerting because the way it's designed is that it's designed so that as the camera pans around, the scenery changes so that it provides that depth of perspective to the perspective of the camera, not to the perspective of the actor standing in the space. So I would almost think it would be a little bit disconcerting to be looking at the screen and seeing that image change, and that your perspective would be off because you are not the camera.
So I don't know, they didn't really get to that level, but it really seemed like it could be a static scene that did not depend on the camera, so that the camera could move and see different aspects of the screen. But then you're right, you probably could change it that way.
Yeah.
What was, the cast talking about how the first day on it, when they were supposed to be on the ship and they're surrounded in this 360 by ocean, some of them got seasick.
Mm-hmm. I'll bet.
And then, but I don't think, I think films will still film on location because it's cheaper in many cases, but you could really see how they still had to do practical effects. Like they had pieces of ground when they were outside, because in the crazy part of the ship is that it becomes very obvious. It's either the ship is fake or that, maybe it's a hologram. The whole thing, you don't know, because they'll go through these ports and these tunnels in the ship and end up in like some landscape, either a pyramid or an ice place, something. So in that case, what you see is they were moving like pieces of that ground around into different into different shapes, so you could get a different angle with the camera, but it was still built that way.
Yeah, that would be cool.
We should dive into some of the mind bending that occurred in 1899. So, as Jenna mentioned, there was as these mysteries start to unravel on the ship, and they anchor up to the Prometheus, and at some point they decide they're going to tow it back home. They're no longer going to. I believe they were going to go back to Europe, and they weren't going to continue going to the United States, which continues to upset the rest
because
of the
the company
crew,
told them to sink the ship.
Yeah, the company told them to sink the ship, but the captain, nothing made sense. He wanted answers. Nothing really smelled right. So he was like, no, we should bring the ship back. We need to figure out what happened or whatever. And we're going to go back to Europe because it's the closest opposed to continuing on to the States. And as, they embark on this journey, all the weird things start to happen. You start to uncover weird passages through the ship that Jenna was talking about, and for whatever reason, it was always located like under a bed. There'd be like a hatch in the ground. Open up the hatch, go into it, and at first, it went into a little like just a box with like black, like gloss black tiles everywhere, but you couldn't go anywhere. It was just a weird hole underneath your cabin apartment area. Eventually we find out that they open up if you have this special key or some special thing with you, that they open up and then you crawl through it, and then you kind of pop out of literally what seems like the volume, which Jenna was talking about how they filmed it. It's like you're walking out of a screen and it's all fake area around you, but you can still kind of navigate and walk through it. You can walk to a house that you could see, or a pyramid or whatever. And it was very weird. And it ended up being a little bit of, Matrix meets maybe a little bit of Inception, meets a little bit of any kind of popular movie or series that had things where you weren't really sure whether you were dreaming or not. And whenever anyone ends up getting knocked out or whatever, they just wake back up in their bed like they were reset, if you will. So that was very, very interesting. And I think as the plot starts to unfold, it gets really weird, a little bit confusing, but you kind of have to push through, especially as you get up to like episode 4 or 5. They tend to end some of the episodes on like, what the hell just happened kind of moments. and as you get closer to the end, they start revealing, that there's, a creator. There's a guy sitting in front of a screen, kind of like the Matrix, where you had that one guy that had all the screens in the room when Neo finally meets him. He's kind of observing everything. He's kind of controlling everything. And then it kind of unravels into this, we're all in a simulation. And that's why I say it's kind of like Matrixy in that point. And what was kind of cool was you start to wonder what's real, what's not real. Mara must be real, but is she really real? And you're trying to break out of this mental cycle. And there's a scene in there later on, last couple episodes or so, where Mara's explaining how the brain works, and you have all these neurons that connect to different parts. And as they're navigating the ship, that's how she explains what they're doing. They're kind of navigating the mind. And so then it becomes about Mara and breaking her mind free. And she comes to understand that I'm the one trapped in the simulation. Nothing around you is real. You must free your mind to get out of this. And we'll get to the ending here soon. But that's kind of what it starts to lead up to. But you can see where it gets kind of confusing. Can you imagine trying to navigate your own mind? We go to these different corridors. And it ultimately not ends up being a part of just Mara either. There's a few key crew members, as Jenna mentioned. They all are part of this to some extent. And I don't know if you want to add any more, Jenna, from what you saw as well, but that was kind of just mind-bending part of it.
And it's not, obviously, it becomes apparent that these passages don't just lead to pieces of Mara's mind, they lead to pieces of the other passengers' minds that are still alive, because this really creepy situation happens where a bunch of the crew members start committing suicide and jumping off the ship.
Yes.
Oh my god.
And it was really hard to watch in a way.
So on that scene, so what happened? This is when you really start to get weirdness. They're all I forget exactly what was happening, but then these bells started ringing or some kind of audible alarm. And it became clear that 90% of the crew heard it and just turned into these walking zombies, run up to the top of the ship and just walk the F off of it.
Oh my god.
Right into the ocean.
Just waves walking off. And
God.
it's really horrifying because even though they only show adults, there's children in there. There's people with you for a fact because there was one scene with a woman with a baby, and she jumped off the ship with that baby.
Oh my god.
And
dark, very dark.
It is dark. But the creators are German, so they're not afraid of killing people.
Right.
Yeah, Bill, I think you classified as sci-fi horror. There's not a lot of real horror in this, but it is dark and there are shocking moments, but it's not like jump at you. It's not intended to scare you, but it is mind-bending. It is really dark, and people who you think might not die in this series. So
it's Game of
I like
Thrones.
that. I like it when you don't know for sure that a character is safe.
And that's when I say the creators are German, not because they are not afraid to put people in a real situation and kill the characters you like, or characters that you think would be mean. They're not afraid to do that. And I don't think you see that as much in American cinema. It's growing, but it's not. You tend to save people in American cinema.
Yeah.
Right.
Cool. That's awesome.
So it's, and again, it was very ambitious that they did what they did, and that they end, because I think you can classify it as horror, because the way they describe it in the making of 1899, it starts as a period piece and it turns a little bit into horror, because when they find the Prometheus, obviously something terrible has happened and something is going on. So when they end up back on the Kerberos and things are going wrong, you're like, well, was it a ghost? Was the ship cursed? Is this little boy the Antichrist?
Right.
Which at one point the Danish religious group gets all the rest of the ship riled up, the passengers who are obviously in lower class, to kill the boy. They want to kill the boy because they think he's the Antichrist, or he's a demon or something.
Oh boy.
And so that's where that horror, it's like, okay, is this a supernatural thing? And then you start seeing the machinery around the ship, and that the guy who got back aboard the Kerberos, who has this little thing that he uses a bug to somehow unlock rooms, but at the same time he's got a dial that he's changing some functionality of the ship. You're like, oh wait, this is suddenly sci-fi. because at one point
Yep.
he is able to make the Kerberos disappear completely away from the Prometheus. You're like, what is going on?
Yeah.
So it's a roller coaster. It's definitely a roller coaster of different interesting characters, themes. What am I watching? Is any of this real? But it's still very good the way they put it together, and I'd highly recommend the series
Yeah,
to our
I'm
audience.
gonna watch it now.
Yeah, they did a good job of implanting things that didn't make sense that would exist in 1899. So like the gentleman that Jenna mentioned earlier on that crawls up from the boat after they first find the Prometheus and then assumes the role of as one of the crew members of the one of the passengers. He has a flashlight, right? And everyone else is a lantern. So there's a scene at one point where he's using a flashlight and people are like, what the F is that? You know, because
Sure.
it shouldn't exist in this time. And, you know, what is that? So they have mixes of technology in there that it is clear this is not from this time. And that's where it's where you got to wrap your head around, like, what time, what period is it actually? You know, what year is it?
Right.
And they really like slide it in, like they almost like this bait and switch, because when you start to see the creator watching the crew members, like, oh, this is some type of experiment, and the furniture around him looks like it's from the 70s.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
And you're like, oh, so this is crazy. Maybe this is like America Ultra or something like that, where you know, all the LSD test studies or whatever, and these poor people are just tripping. And then you find out by the end, no, it's not even the 70s. It's even farther in the future.
Yeah. Can we get into the ending? Is that
Yeah.
too far?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
So as you know, we've talked about already, this is a simulation. And ultimately it's about Mara having to wake up. Okay. She ultimately does. We won't get into the details of what unraveled and how this happened, but Mara wakes up and you see her here, and you can see kind of behind her these little chambers with people kind of locked inside. She has been in the simulation, and the year is in fact 2099, not 1899. And the brother that she was searching for in the beginning ends up being the one who kind of took over the computers of the simulation in an attempt to get her out, I guess. And ultimately, she is on a ship called the Prometheus, except it's a spaceship. And they are all in a what do you call it, like suspended animation and traveling somewhere. Okay. And on the screen pops up a message, you know, hello sis or whatever.
Yeah. Welcome back to reality, sis.
Yeah, welcome back to reality, sis. And in the room around here are some of the key crew members and passengers also in suspended animation. Some of the key ones I told you about, not the ones that, you know, ended up walking off the boat. Excuse me, but some of the other key members. And there's multiple pods. So as it zooms out in the ship, it's a pretty big. I mean, it was gigantic. But she's in one kind of pod with you know, let's call it a dozen people in it, and there's other ones around as well attached to this ship. So we don't really get any further details than that. That's how it ends. And so it's kind of left up to us to really kind of understand, you know, there are these passengers on this journey in a suspended animation. I don't know if it was intended that they be in some kind of dreamlike state, or the, you know, suspension was to help you from going, or the simulation was to help people from going mad, or what.
So is this designed as a standalone series then? There won't be a season 2? Or
no, is it not, Jenna?
No, they intend to have another season. I don't think it's been confirmed by Netflix yet, but when you watch the making of, they talk about how they have plans for their characters in season 2. But it's so, and what was interesting is that the number of passengers and the number of crew, because some of the statistics of the ship start popping up for Mora now that she's woken up, is the same amount of passengers and the same amount of crew that was in the simulation.
Yeah.
That was supposedly on the Kerberos.
Yeah, it was like 1,400 something passengers, 550 crew members, or something of that nature, or whatever. So it was a lot of people.
So let me ask you guys this question: if that had happened to you, and you then woke up, would you then think, well, wait a minute. Am I really in reality, or is this
Right.
just
Well, and
part
that's the inception part. Like, did I really wake up or did I
Yeah.
not?
But-
Because I've been through so much already.
And here's the thing, I think we don't know.
Mhm.
For all we know in this scene, because Maura has no one to talk to, she is 1899 Maura, because she has no memories. Like this
Mhm.
mysterious passenger that boarded the Kerberos from the Prometheus ended up being her husband, and he knows what everything is. And the creator knows what everything is, and some of the passengers knew that they were in a simulation. And it seems like her husband knew that they were in the future, that this is just a period piece of a simulation. But if Maura still does not remember
Which
after
we don't
waking
know,
up,
but yes. Yeah.
we don't know. She is literally a woman from 1899 thrust
Mhm.
into some realm that she has no framework to understand.
All right. So prediction: the second season will be entitled 2099.
Oh, maybe.
Oh,
It would make sense. It would work, I think. I don't know.
Which then
Yeah.
leads to the logical thing: season 3 could be 3099, and maybe it is a simulation.
Just keeps jumping forward.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh man.
Wouldn't that be,
I hope
wouldn't
not.
that be a mind bender?
I hope not. I think they could keep it as 1899 and
Yeah.
it just goes from that journey and who knows, it could be a lot like oh my gosh. I just blanked on it. The more popular one where everyone was in this, they go to this place and they go back into like the cowboy era.
Oh my God. Yul Brynner was in the original. It's Westworld.
Westworld, yeah. It could start to play out something like Westworld where you keep going back to this 1899, maybe for other characters or other events or other types of simulations. Potentially. I don't know.
All right.
It would be cool to see a shift into a space time.
It would.
All right.
All right.
It's cool.
Sounds good. Well, so you guys give it 2 thumbs up?
yes.
2 thumbs up for the English original.
Yes, English original.
1 thumb up if you don't mind and you're just a monster like I am for the English dub. Fair warning. So
For a
Right.
second,
And-
I thought Chris was going to try and start a fight with English dub, come fight me.
The thing is, he knows I would come fight him. There's video of this happening in college, and it didn't end well for Chris.
no, so Jenna's
Awesome.
never gonna let it go.
Yeah, I definitely say watch it, and then if you like it or you're intrigued, check out Dark, which is the previous
Yes.
series the creators had done.
It's all mine to do.
All right. Sounds good. Well, thank you all for tuning in, and we hope you'll get out there and check out the show. And if you do, let us know what you think, and let us know in the comments as well if you prefer the English original or English dubbed version. We'll battle it out in the comments. So, all right, we'll look forward to hearing from you. Thank you all for tuning in, and we will see you next week. Take care. Bye-bye.
Later.
Bye.
Oh,
Bye.
of course, I'm not ready.
Oh, for God's sake.
Hold on. Stay with us.
All
right, here we go.
Bill will get it in 2099.
Right. 2099. All right. Bye again.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Galactic Driftwood podcast. For more information and past episodes, please visit our website at galacticdriftwood.space or subscribe to us on YouTube. And now, please deactivate your cranial downlinks, collect your towels, and be sure to watch your step as you exit our gravity well.